you doing, team? Ray here. This is my Yamaha MT07, and I thought what better to do on a Saturday than join the throngs of people on the internet with oil changing videos. So that's what we're going to do, change the oil on my MT07, and you can come along and learn how I do it. There might be slightly different variants on how you do it, or how best practice might be, but let's get into it. First thing you're going to need is tools, lots and lots and lots of tools. A torque wrench is always a good idea for doing up that pesky sump plug. This tool here is for removing the filter, the oil filter. We've got more sockets and everything there. It's a 1/2 inch drive set. An oil filter, that's very, very handy. Something to drain your oil into. Don't use a 2 litre ice cream container, because that ain't going to work. And of course, new oil. Now I'm led to believe that these bikes take around about 3 litres of oil. So this is what has been advised I use. And of course remember that you can't just use something that you use for your car, because these have a wet clutch. They use the same oil in the engine as they do in the clutch. So without further ado, with my trusty sidekick Tilly, we're going to get into it. Oil changing on an MT07.
First thing you're going to want to do is start the engine up. This is going to put some heat in the oil and make it easier to drain. You're going to run it for about 5 minutes. Luckily the MT07 has a gauge on the instrument cluster which tells you what temperature the internal engine is up to.
At this point I'd say that 51 degrees is probably quite warm enough, so we can turn it off and we are ready to start draining the oil. Now you're going to need a 17mm socket, as you can see, a 17mm to undo the sump plug just here. And these can be quite tight from factory. There we go. Be careful not to burn yourself on any of this, because it will all be quite warm after just having run it. Also, don't lose your sump plug in the oil drain pan. There's also a crush washer which I've just lost. Fantastic. So while that's draining, I'm going to go find some rags. While that's draining, a good idea to help that drain is to undo the filler, the oil filler cap. So that's just down here. It's also plastic, so never ever use any tools on it. So you don't have to take it right off, you can just loosen it and that will help drain. Alright, while that's draining, the next thing you want to do is take this off. This is the oil filter. These can be incredibly handy for that sort of thing. And once that's cracked, this will just come off nice and easily. When it comes to preparing a new filter, there are a couple of things you really want to do. You don't just want to whip it out of the box and chuck it on. So take the paper off, or the wrapper off I should say, and you've got an O-ring right around the outside which also looks like it's already got some oil on it. But what I'm going to do is just take a bit of the old oil and rub it around that seal. Right, and that's ready to go back on.
Just before you do put that new filter on, it's a good idea to clean off any of the old oil from the area where the new filter is going to be sitting. Make sure you don't get any debris in there though. Make sure it's nice and clean and free of debris.
These don't need to go ridiculously tight either. Hand tight is brilliant. Once it's been through a couple of heat cycles, it's going to seal itself on there perfectly. So just as tight as you can get it with your hand is all you need. Right, this little guy is an O-ring which they put on the sump plug, and you can replace these. In fact, I'd advise to replace them. I actually forgot to get one, so I won't be replacing it, but I'd say get one if you can. Right, we're now pretty much done with the mechanical side of things. We don't need to play with any bolts or anything. Everything's tightened up, everything's torqued up. Now it's just a matter of filling it up with oil. Don't forget that. Once you've put your recommended amount of oil back in the bike, you'll need to start it to circulate that oil and warm it up. And once the bike's up to temperature, around about 50 degrees, turn it off, make sure it's in a vertical position, not leaning over on its side stand, and let it sit there for a while until the oil drains back into the sump. The bottom line here on the peephole is the low line, you don't want it below that, and the top line is the high line, you don't want it above that. And that's how you change the oil on a Yamaha MT07. Now remember that that sump plug uses 43 Newton meters of torque. The oil filter needs to be finger tight or hand tight, and it uses, if you're replacing the oil filter, 2.6 litres of oil. Have fun!